This is the third in a series of videos on creating dynamic blocks using the same block, which is a window block. Started by adding a base point, then we added stretch parameters with a midpoint setting so that they stretch in both directions. We made the stretch incremental so that it goes only in 3-inch increments, had a minimum of 24, maximum of 48. Put an alignment parameter, which is represented by this little home plate symbol. Put a flip parameter so that we could flip the sill if we needed to. And now we're going to continue on and do a couple more things. First, we're going to create a lookup table. The lookup table is going to be a table that will have a list of values so that we can just select it, pick the window size we want, rather than dragging it and hoping we hit the right increment. To add the lookup table, we'll go to the author paletting tablet, the parameters button, and then find lookup, and then click it. Now we need to follow the prompts. Let's get that out of the way a little bit. It says specify parameter location. We'll put the lookup table just above the midpoint, so it comes in as a lookup parameter. We can change the name of that, but lookup 1 is fine. It has an exclamation mark. That means that it needs an action. We go over to actions, and sure enough, there's a lookup action. It asks us to select a parameter. We select the parameter, and as soon as we've selected that parameter, we'll put into the property lookup table. Before we can do anything else, we need to add a property. If we pick add property, it gives us the options to pick either of the two parameters that have already been identified that could in fact be part of a lookup table. The flip parameter and the distance parameter. We're going to leave the flip parameter as it is. It's only got 2 states. If you don't like the one you have, you just pick something. But the distance parameter has multiple states. So we'll take distance 1, pick OK, and now distance 1 has all these options, and we're going to put both the input properties and the lookup properties. So I've started placing the input properties. The input properties are values that are part of the set. So you notice we've got 2 feet, 2 feet 3 inches. If I put in a 30 and then press the tab, 2 feet 6 inches, 33, 36, 39, 42, 45, and 48. Now the lookup properties is how you want them labeled so that they're clear to you. So I would want them labeled the same way. There's no way that I know of to simply take the input properties as listed and make them lookup properties. I believe you have to type these in. So you just have to go down through and type them in. So I've done that. What I chose to do was to put the size in inches under the lookup properties, and the size in the input would convert it automatically to architectural units because that's the units I've got set for this drawing. Now I pick OK. I now have a lookup table. If I close the block editor, save the changes, and then go back out and bring in my window symbol again. Let's put this one right here. We'll go in, let's trim it out just so it looks a little better. So we'll clean that up. Now when I select this window symbol, I have a lookup table here that allows me to say make it 39. Actually, I shouldn't have trimmed it till I did this, of course. Make it 45. Make it 24. So you don't have to just grab it and stretch it, although you can if you want, either one of those, since we have both of them in place. The lookup table I like. I think it's a little neater, and I think it's more helpful for people who aren't as familiar with dynamic blocks. And it does mean you don't have to worry about what actual dimension you're going to take this out in. You can just pick it from the table. Now we'll wrap this up. Clean that up a little more. Just can't stand the way it looks. We'll wrap this up by adding 2 visibility states. One that it has a projected sill and one without a projected sill. And when you see the visibility states, I think that should open up all kinds of possibilities for you in creating your own blocks. Because you can put as many things as you want in a single dynamic block definition, set them up as alternate visibility states, and you could, for instance, have all the trees you would ever want to use as a single block, and simply bring each one of them in as a block, and then set a visibility state so only the one you want at any given time is showing up, and those visibility states also become their own lookup table. Let's go back in the block editor. We'll edit the win block once again, and now we'll deal with the visibility states, and the visibility state parameter listed over here. Grab it, specify parameter location. We'll go just above this one, so we have the visibility state. Once again, there's an exclamation point. We go over to actions. You look up and down. You don't see any actual visibility state under actions here. Double click on the visibility state though, and it opens up the visibility states dialog box. And what we're going to do is rename the first one. We'll call the first one projected. For the projected, well, let's call it projected sill. Then we'll make a new one called flush sill. And now we've got two states. Come out here like so, and then we can start changing them. Now in order to change them, we need to have the tab opened. So the visibility state tab is showing, and you need to go to one or the other. Right now we're in the projected sill stage. Right now we're in the flush. So projected sill is here, flush sill is here. What we want to do on the flush sill is we want to hide a few things. So if we go up here and take a look at the options, one is simply to go back in that little window that creates visibility states. Visibility mode determines how objects are going to be displayed. Make visible means you can take an object and make it visible in the current state. Make invisible says you can select an object and make it invisible in the current state. So the current state right now is flush sill. So I'm going to pick the Make Invisible button. I'm coming down here and I'm going to select each one of those lines representing the projected sill. So in one state, flush sill, it looks like this. In the other state, projected sill, it looks like that. When I'm done, I'm going to close my block editor. When I close the block editor, save the changes, go back out. I keep inserting a new one, by the way, because sometimes when you make a change, it doesn't update the existing ones like you might want it to. Now you notice I've got two things that look like lookup tables. One of them indicates what size I want it to be. The other one, what state. Go to flush sill, it looks like that. Go to projected sill, it looks like this. I've got my alignment parameter. I've got my flip parameter that allows me to flip back and forth like so. The lookup tables and the visibility parameters. I'm going to finish this up with one last thing. And the one last thing I'm going to put on here is an alternative insertion point. So right now we're coming in, our insertion point is centered, so it would be along a wall on the inside. But I'm going to have another insertion point right here as an alternate insertion point. And the way you add that, is to go back in the block editor, edit the block you're dealing with, go over to parameters, and add a point parameter. Now what I'm going to do is add the point parameter so that it lines up with the midpoint of the center line, lines up with the edge of that. So now I'm going to have a little point that goes right there. Now that point at the moment is called position 1, and that's alright. I don't have any problem with that, but it does need an action. The action I'm going to associate with it by picking action and then selecting it is going to be move. And now put a window around every single thing you've done. Adding an alternative insertion point is really best done last, so that you can pick everything in the block so that as you go and move it with that insertion point, everything moves. Now I'm going to close this up, save the changes one last time. So now if we wanted to use that in an application like this, we can insert our window symbol, say let's bring it in, have it automatically align, select it, go to a lookup table, pick the size we want, trim out by cleaning this up like so. You can go in at this point as well, and you can change to a flush sill or a projected sill. But you also have an alternative insertion point where if you pick it and move it, everything moves with it. So that if when I'd come in with my window block, I didn't like the existing insertion point, what I could do is press the Control key, and it switches among the various points and gets eventually to this one. So that becomes my insertion point. One problem with that, the way I did this, is that I have an alignment parameter associated with the first insertion point, but not with any of the others. So in this case, if I want to align things automatically, I really need to do this. Once it's aligned, if I go through here, it goes back to the original. So I need to put my aligned in like that, and then I can use that other insertion point to move it if I need to. That's the end of that tutorial. This is the one that was left out of your book because of the length of the book. But that includes some additional things as well. So the section on the book is on the R drive in the Dynamic Blocks folder, and this video concludes the review of that.